Hey there, fellow citizens of the internet. Welcome to the Moses Kabandana Podcast. Today, I have with me Yazz-E. How do you go about that?
There it is. No, you said it right the second time is on point. Yazz-E.
Yazz-E. Man, that's dope. That's how'd you come up with that?
Great question. So Yazz-E, I am a student of a lot of different philosophies, spirituality.
Okay.
I've been on this search for a long time. So this is a quick but long backstory. Basically,
Yeah.
I pulled it from different places. So I believe in eternity. I believe that we live forever. So the E is for eternity, and the Yazz-E is really a take from some of the favorite artists, rappers, are like RZA and SZA, and they have deep Muslim roots, and in each one, those letters mean something. So it's like the Y, the A, and the Z is for zig and zag, kind of just saying that I adapt and I kind of move along. Yah is also a part of Yahweh. I like to put God within me. I know it's just identifying that. So Yahweh, Z and Z is zig and zag. And then you have E for eternal.
My man. Jeepers. Okay, I might have to consider coming up with a nickname for myself. So before we get any deeper here, we're gonna be talking about mindset, right? And I feel like it's a topic that it's thrown around too much day in, day out. Change your mindset. But what it actually takes to change a mindset, or to evaluate whether you need that change in mindset. The practical steps to do so are often blurred or not discussed about or not shared. It's just, hey, change your mindset, and it's just, off you go. So why is the topic of mindset and mindset change so important to you?
Well, Moses, just to give the proper introduction, guys, I also have the podcast too. So I run a podcast called Beyond Six Figures. And this is where I talk a lot about transformation, helping people build the foundation that they need in order to go beyond money alone, right? So why is this an important topic? Why is this so important to me? Because it's necessary. It's honestly the thing that continues to keep us in the game or put us out the game. It's the difference between the Kobe's of the world and those you never heard of. And it's literally our mindset. So that's why I find it important. And I'm a fan. I'm a deep fan of transformation. I love seeing people be able to pull themselves out of certain situations. And I found those parts and points in my life as well where I've overcome. So I love the overcomer. I love the person who is striving to transform and to make themselves better, because each person who improves themselves essentially improves the world.
Right. That's well said. Each person that transforms themselves or improves themselves improves the world. What would you say is, like, I'm assuming here that you've gone through a few transformations. Assuming that is true, what can you let us into one of those transformations and what it took for you to actually go through the transformation well? Like, what are the steps? Identifying that you need to transform and then going through the process of transformation. Can we get a little glimpse into that?
So just a little bit about me. My first transformation was something that I didn't really have the words for at the time, but I can better describe it now. And one thing is that I overcame childhood obesity. I was 210 going into high school as a freshman. Very young guy, but overweight. And I'm not talking about muscle. And I always had the desire to, I played football at the time, so I always had the desire to, run faster, and B, I wanted to run the ball, actually be like a running back. Terrell Davis was like my favorite athlete at the time. And so there was a lot of things that needed to change about myself, because I had poor eating habits coming up. It was always in my household. It was heavy on the starch, heavy on the sugar, like these things that they were just considered, I would say, almost sacrosanct, like just something that we kind of always did, grandmother's house on Sundays, heavy food, heavy on but soul food though, we loved it. it was these habits that I had. You know, I had to finish whatever I put on my plate. And when you're talking about being greedy, that's just not helpful for a child. Yeah, so I had to overcome those mindsets in order to get to where I wanted to go. So one of the first things I started to do, unbeknownst to myself, I fell upon these positive tracks, right? I started listening to more of these positive messages, but I was always a positive kid. There was nothing that I didn't think I could do. No matter what my weight was, there's nothing that I couldn't do. My mom listened to these gospel tracks, always had these encouraging songs, so I thank her for that. Yeah. And she always encouraged us. So I leaned on that, and I decided to start listening to more things. And I came across this one particular idea was to basically, when you're trying to lose weight, one thing is portion control. So the idea of portion control came to me due to whatever I was listening to at the time. And I said, all right, you know what? When I go to school, I'm going to half my plate, right? I'm just going to eat some of this and I'm going to put this to the side. And I started doing that. And then it was tough at first, but I kept doing it. And then with football, we always worked out. So I was, I started to decrease the amount that I ate with the same type of workout that was happening. So I automatically started to make a shift. So that was something that was happening for me, and I didn't really notice at the time, but it's funny. So this is why transformation is important, especially for those who are surrounded by others, because you may not know it, but someone is always watching. And I didn't know, like I leaned on that for a long time, right? I used to tell people that, but it really didn't hit me until recently, because when I was doing these things, when I was going through my personal transformation, my little brother recalled the incidents of like we used to wake up and he used to be running a mile. I did that so far. I didn't even remember that's what I was doing. I didn't think of it like that. But he was like, man, Aaron used to be out and doing this and that. And he said it at my birthday this past like year or two. And he was like, man, so I watched him change himself. So he then felt like he could do the same. So even though it's a small tangent, but be mindful, because others are watching, and your transformation can be what others need to transform themselves. So I went through that, and then that led to me getting faster. I asked the coach, how do I get faster? He said, run faster. Didn't make sense at the time, but it makes sense now, as in if you want to be somewhere, just do it. And all he was saying was every snap you run your hardest, and eventually you'll be faster. Now, there are techniques. There are better ways of getting breath techniques, foot techniques, all that. But honestly, just run faster. So this played on my imagination. I thought of myself in different ways. I started thinking myself in different ways. And eventually I got to that point by my sophomore year. Literally the summer of my sophomore year going into my junior year, I had lost the weight, and basically the same weight that I am now. So I dropped from 210 to 180. Yep. And I've been here ever since. And thanks to the information that came to me when I wanted it, and I acted on it, and then turn around, I became more infatuated with like the idea of this transformation thing. I started running faster. I started running faster than people that was once running faster than me, and I was going. So it changed my life in a lot of ways, and the way that I word it now is that I became aware of something. Then I abandoned my old way of thinking. Yeah. And then that turned into accepting who I was, and I took action and decided to keep going. So, between awareness, abandonment, acceptance, and action, those are some of the things that I started saying that's part of transformation.
Now, was there any pushback from your peers? Right, like, and here's what I mean is like, who do you think you are? Like, do you think you're any better than us? Like, why are you trying to lose weight? And if I'm not in, assuming that we're both in the same, we're both peers and we're both overweight, and then you take the step of losing the weight, that might mirror to me the thing that I lack, right? So I might, as a friend, be like, hey, you think you're better than me? Like, slow down. Or like, did you get any pushback?
the pushback probably came more from family because, and not in like a direct negative way, but because that like I said, it was the food. Like we all indulged in it. We all had this habit together. So imagine my mom making a plate and I'm telling her, look, I'm only going to eat half of it. Like I want less than what you usually give me. Right. Though she's happy for it, right? Yeah. And she knows that's what I need. But in the moment, it could seem offensive. It can be like, oh, you don't want when I'm cooking? You know, imagine me telling my grandmother, that's okay. Like I'll pass on it. You know, like come on, you can't look at your grandmother and be like, look, I can't do this right now, right? So you know, the pushback, and that's the hardest thing because it comes from people who love you, and you know they're not doing this to really hurt you or harm you, but they're just used to you being the you that they know. And I had to learn how to not take it so personally. I smiled a lot. I don't take a lot of things personal. And when I learned that was also a key to doing a lot of things in life, I accepted that even more because, you know, I was always like a quote unquote weird kid, right? I wore different colors and stuff like that. So people made comments a lot, but I just smiled them off. Like, because it was just like, well, this is who I am. I like doing this. So yeah, I had a little pushback, but the pushback wasn't nothing that deterred me. If anything, it brought on a challenge a slight bit because I gave in every now and then, but for the bulk of it didn't. It never really affected me.
Okay, that's amazing because it's like the reason I asked that is that we typically surround ourselves with people that are like us, and the minute that you try to do anything that closely differentiates you from the masses, you're just getting attention to yourself, and that attention can be a bad one, right? Yes. But like you said, there's always somebody that is watching, and if you go through that transformation fully, that the people that are watching, they can start to embody that, and you might not even know, you know, the steps that you're taking to reach the goal that you have in mind. But if someone else is watching you, they might start to emulate the things that you do.
Success leaves clues, and success is not necessarily measured by how much you can gain, but just by you achieving your goal. And if you achieve your goal in front of somebody else, you know what it does? It makes it hard for them to say that they can't because they've seen it.
Right.
Like if you're in the midst of success, if you're in the midst of someone who feels that they're successful or who shows you that, hey, I have this goal, I did it. And now you can't tell me that you can't because you know me. Like we are directly connected. Yep. So, you know, that's happened many of times. Like I've told friends, not to be braggadocious or anything. Yep. I always like to share what I'm doing because that's who I am. And sometimes I learn a lot from other people. So if I'm talking about an idea that I'm willing to share, and a friend have some critique or some ideas, then okay, maybe that can help not necessarily take my idea and shift it, but it helps me kind of see, okay, maybe I'm looking at this differently, right? I can look at this a little bit closer. So I've told friends like, hey man, once I graduate, I'm moving to New York, you know, and maybe my friends didn't believe it at the time because Aaron just liked to talk. But when I did it, I've had friends come back and be like, yo, you said you was going to do it and you did it. Yeah. So that makes it hard for them not to, because it's like I don't even have to hold them accountable necessarily directly. It's just that my actions are saying that if you're my friend, you can do this too. Right. And I've had friends who've moved out of their hometown. They've lived at certain places just to go get the experience, essentially changing their lives. So, you know, you become the example of the philosophies that you believe in, no matter how much you necessarily know about it. But whatever you've accepted, you become that philosophy. You live it out, and you tend to inspire other people. Yeah,
yeah. And can you touch on the influence that consistency has on your path to transformation? Like the reason I say that's because like I briefly mentioned to you earlier that I just started pilot training, and I just gave myself 30 days to do it, and it's just the day in and day out is so important. To stick with it is so important that if I miss just one day, I lose so much progress. So being consistent day in day out for me in this particular for this particular goal is just it's everything. So in that spirit, can you touch on the importance of consistency when it comes to transformation?
For sure. First off, I appreciate that type of focus when it comes down to consistency, bro. Like, because that's one thing that I always, I won't say that I struggle with, but that's always a friend that I'm always talking to is consistency. And I've learned in so many ways that your level of consistency, you shouldn't be, at least I would say, consider not being so stuck on the idea of consistency, but just be consistent in a way that works for you. Right? So for you, missing one day, can't do it. And that's great. Stick to that. But some people, they can miss a week and come back and still be able to do it, but now they're on an every other week type of thing.
Right.
So
Right.
Consistency is to each his own. We don't share the same level of consistency as in frequency, but it still may be consistent enough for the individual. And I would say that whatever it is, no matter if it's every day, every other day, every 3 days, you pick a route and you go for it, and you make that work for you. So your level of consistency is important because, of course, the higher the frequency, right, the more that you do it, the quicker you do learn. That's period. Right? The more often you do something, the quicker the habits and everything start to integrate. But it's also very challenging because you have a lot of things you have to get rid of at the same time. You're putting new information in, you're challenging old beliefs. That's a lot for some people. Like that plus whatever else is going on in the background, that's kind of tough for some people. But there's few like yourself who can take on a certain goal and say 30 days, no days missed, here I go, I'm all in. And that's a blessing. And there's some people that say, hey, maybe I need to take it week by week, and that's okay too. Just know that you have to start adjusting your goals to the level of your consistency, the frequency that you put out. Because to say that I'm going to be flying a plane in 30 days, but you're only going once a week, that doesn't compute. But to say that I'm going to be flying my first plane, or I'm taking launch in 30 days, and you go every day, you have a higher chance of having success of getting to that goal. That's just what it is. So consistency is important, but I challenge everybody to define what that consistency looks like for them, and then start to mold and modify your goal around the level of consistency that you find yourself, adapting to. So it's definitely important. I think consistency is part of that abandonment part of things that I like to talk about, because you're consistently putting a gap between who you once were and who you're trying to become. So your consistency helps you get there a little bit faster.
No, I totally agree. Agree. And it's this level of intense focus for me applies not in every goal, right? So in this case, it's I'm incorporating it. But 6 months ago, 9 months ago, I hate the idea of running, right? I vomit just thinking about running. But I was like, hey, there's
I hated running at one point.
And it's like just putting one foot in front of the other. For no particular reason, it doesn't come easily to me, but the benefits, I know of them, right? So I was like, okay, as useless as we are in the running department, let's run once a day, 5 days a week for 3 months, right? Because running does not come easy for us. As me, myself, and I, to set the goal of running, an hour a day is too much. It can be so much that it's too big of a monster to face that I might just get paralyzed and not even start, right? So I would just do 10 minutes every day. I think that went on for like maybe a week, and then it went to 20 minutes. By the end of it, I was doing no more than 30 minutes, right? By the end of those 3 months, but 10 minutes of running to 30 minutes of running for someone that detests the idea of running, it was just amazing, right? So exactly. So consistency for me in that case meant let's take the smallest possible step that we can take towards this goal, and that was 10 minutes of running, right?
Yes.
So, and for someone else, that's wait, 10 minutes, that's nothing, right?
That's nothing.
But for me, and the goal that I had in mind, and where I was at in relation to that goal, oh man, 10 minutes is all that I needed.
Are you familiar with Dr. BJ Fogg?
That name
Tiny
is very...
Habits?
No, but I need to write that down. I said Dr. Tiny Frog?
No, tiny Dr. BJ Fogg.
BJ Fogg, okay.
Fogg. But
Yep.
he has a book and a method called Tiny Habits. And if you've read Atomic Habits, he refers to his work. And what you did is exactly what he talks about, as in take the smallest, easiest, basically break down this massive goal, this massive elephant of a goal, and take it bite by bite, right? So, like you said, for you, 10 minutes is what you was willing to give, because 10 minutes, it's like, okay, this is big for me. But the funny thing is that once you run, walk, or whatever for 10 minutes, you're like, I can go for another 10.
Yeah.
Now you up to 30.
Yeah.
And that is a beautiful transition and transformation. Now you can call yourself a runner, or you don't even got to say that I like running, but I run. Doesn't mean you become a lover of it. So I think that's cool. And the fact that you hadn't heard of them, but you do the work, means that information is around you somewhere. You've been looking for ways to transform yourself. And I think that's a part of that whole consistency and everything. It's like figuring out what you just, what you're not so good at, what you're not so great at. And it's okay. I'm coming to terms, because I think it's more of an ego thing. I'm coming to terms where I'm admitting, like, okay, I'm just not that great at that, but I want to be decent. But it's not the biggest goal in my world. It's not the most important, but I know the benefits. I'm going to take a little time. I'm going to put a little bit here. I'm going to do a little bit there. So,
no,
kudos
that's
to you for that, man. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Oh, now the full picture is that I ran for those 3 months, and then I was like, you know what? I think we kind of like this whole running thing. So let's invest a bit more money into like proper running shoes and everything. Yep. So I went ahead and then I bought some running shoes, and I didn't run ever since. It's just...
You got to your goal, bro.
Yeah.
You hit your goal. It's cool. You got to your goal. Like you said, like you don't feel like you're a runner, but now you've ran. So it's like, all right, I got the shoes whenever I'm ready, Yep.
They're right there. So it's just the idea was to face this monster, right? This monster that to me was too big. So the question that I would ask you for you then is, what do you think is like one of the biggest obstacles when it comes to people seeing their goal to fruition? So let's say you've identified an area that you need to transform. You identify the tentative steps that you need to take in order to achieve that goal, and then you start, and then you're consistent. But then somewhere halfway, you fall off the face of the earth. What do you think is the biggest obstacle for people to see consistently, like, see their transformation all the way through?
Moses, that's a really good one. I had a talk with a friend a while back, and we talked on this topic before.
Yeah.
And what I responded with was, you still haven't fully committed to the idea of the new self or the new future you. You have to surrender. And surrender is hard to do, especially no matter how far. I think we all tend to deal with it, but really surrendering to what is required to be that person. Like, if just to use me as the guinea pig, or for example, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I started, portion control. But if I didn't already have football in the background of like working out, then working out would have been another thing for me to do. But so now, boom, I have that. So that's one hurdle I don't have to get over. I like football. It's already a natural. I'm already moving my body. Slight, portion control. So getting a 6-pack was probably one of the biggest goals. I still don't have one yet, right? I'm just slender. I'm still good fit or whatever. I hadn't had that chiseled body that I wanted. And that's the thing. I never truly surrendered to the idea of getting that body because the only goal was to not be fat anymore, not to be unhealthy. And the funny thing is, you can be healthy without a chiseled body.
Yeah.
So I would say that I didn't fail at my goal, because I definitely achieved it, but I wasn't as specific, or I didn't surrender enough to even get to the next level, right? In order to get to that chiseled body, or that I may still desire, it requires another level of thinking. It requires another level of habits. So it's like, one, maybe your goal wasn't as deep as you thought it was, right? Yeah. Like me wanting to lose weight was a great goal, but honestly, I just wanted to be healthy. I still, and I wanted to be liked too. There were girls there. Girls were part of the motivation. Girls didn't really like fat guys, right? Yes, so how does it? Like me, I lose the weight and I got the girl that I always wanted. So it's like I win. I can stop here. I can stop here because that was the goal, right? I'm healthier now. I look better now. I'm no longer that guy. Like physically, you can see it, and mentally, you can feel it. So what I would say to a person who may have achieved only half of that goal, maybe that was the goal in itself, and it's okay to acknowledge that. But let's be real. If you want that, if what you want is still slightly out of reach, there's more you have to surrender. That means there's more work you have to do. You have to surrender to the whole idea of who you truly want to be. And it's okay if that who you truly want to be was never the chiseled body guy, but it was the guy that wanted to be accepted. He wanted to be loved. He wanted to feel great. He wanted to look better. I achieved that. You see what I'm saying? So I use that whole analogy in my whole experience because it's like basically maybe the goal wasn't exactly what you thought it was, right? And that comes only with experience and with action. You won't know that until you start making the moves. Like to sit back and try to say, well, maybe that may not be the goal. That may not be what I really want. You don't know that until you start taking the steps. And when you take the steps, you start seeing, okay, I want more, right? I'm here. I truly want more. So now it's like, I got to dig in deeper. I got to, the transformation has already been made, but now here's another transformation on top of the transformation. And that can be a little scary. So you have to fully surrender and fully commit to what's required. Especially if you've already started making the changes and you've had some success, right? You've ran already. You've gotten yourself up to 30 minutes. If you are truly satisfied with that, great. But if your goal was, man, I want to run a marathon, and all you got was up to 30 minutes, then you have to be real with yourself and be like, nah, I don't really want to run a marathon, my guy, but I can run 30 minutes if I need to.
So this might be not exactly stepping on your toes, but just has that goal changed from losing weight and being healthy to I don't want to go back to where I once was?
The primary goal is not to go back to where I once was, and to never return there. So now what the goal has become is to maintain and to find a way to continue to mold that body. Now, I'm not going to lie. How I get to the chiseled situation is now committing more to a better philosophy of health and what works for me. So I do a lot of yoga. I've ran a marathon. I'm also training for a triathlon currently. So these things are the things that make me feel good. I like training that. I come to find out I like the endurance training. That's my thing. And then I like the idea of core, of training my core. So I'm finding the things that make sense for me, and I know that I love the idea of longevity. So I can say I'm a marathon runner, but I would tell you that I'm not trying to run a marathon every year. because I want to be 80 and my joints be okay. That's why I do yoga. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just being packed out and muscly and, super chiseled. It's really about mobility, flexibility, and strength in a way that's maybe not, heavily promoted for a lot of people. So calisthenics and things of that nature. So I'm still on the journey of great health for myself. How I see it is whatever will take me further and not just give me the immediate results of a chiseled body and six packs and stuff like that. So I've achieved the goal of having a six pack before. So I've gotten to that point, kudos to myself. But, like I said, during that, I've learned that I really enjoy fasting. That's a part of my life, period.
Okay.
I really enjoy endurance training. So I enjoy doing something that involves the core, but I also like to guard my joints, my mobility, all those things. So, I would say, I've hit that goal. But what's more important to me is longevity.
Longevity, man, that's a good goal. By the way, I lost the video feedback, but it's all good. Longevity. It's the reason that I like to yap about longevity is because, like, if you can find somebody that's been doing something that is remotely difficult in the medium to long term, that's somebody that you want to listen to, right? Because it's like, not only have they pursued something that makes them better, but they're able to do that across time, and it's that cross time part that's very difficult to do. So, man, what do you see yourself as far as like physical fitness and maintaining this mindset in the next, I don't know, you just said you don't want to be 80 years old and with broken joints and unable to move. So that's going to require some longevity. What strategies have you put in place to make sure that you don't fall back to your old ways? I guess that's the question.
Great question. So you start finding ways to make it a part of your life, period, in every single way. So I can't do all these things at once. So this is also by putting in perspective. It's very similar to breaking it down to small habits, right? When I take my time to do my yoga, I do my yoga. I focus on that. But when I construct my my actual training, if I like joint training, if I am a fan of that, if I like calisthenics, then I find maybe just 3 minutes or one workout that I can do that involves the training that I'm looking to continue to grow upon. So you try to customize it a little bit for yourself, but you constantly find ways to put those things into your daily habits in some form. And maybe you can't do it every day, but that's my strategy, is literally figure out, you find a person who's doing it already. All right, so these are the workouts they doing. You try to assess yourself. And so to put it in a better example, with calisthenics, they do muscle ups. And these are when the guy gets above the bar, right? They looks really cool. I can't do one. Right. I cannot do the muscle up. So
it's hard.
I've tried it, right? I can do a pull up, but I can't do a muscle up. So what I do is I watched a ton of videos of these guys who are like doing it, right? They're doing a couple of them, like 6, 10 of them, whatever. Dang. But I know where I'm at, right? So I've accepted the fact that I'm very much a beginner. So what do? I look for beginner options, because it's the same way with everything. Everything has a beginner stage. So in the world that we live in, somebody is recording or documenting a beginner phase for you to where you are. So if you're being honest about yourself, don't go into the gym just trying to muscle up. You're going to embarrass yourself or hurt yourself. So what I have to do is I have to take the beginner stage, and that's okay, because now I can go here when I go do my workout. I can say, all right, so 3 muscle ups looks like get the box, and you just kind of jump on that guy. You do the beginner phase. Do that about 3 times. Okay, boom. That's that workout. Now I go do other things that I know how to do that I might be further along in doing. Now I go do the squat. Now I go do this. If it's joint training, things like pistol squats and stuff of that nature are very much on the calisthenic side, but I can't do a full pistol squat. But there's a beginner stage that I can do. So accept the fact of where you are. Continue to pick picture yourself being the professional you want to be, because that's the fun part. It's like, man, as soon as one day I'll be able to hit 3 of these muscle ups, man. One day I'm gonna be like good enough to get up on this board without the assistance. Like, hype yourself up, have some fun with it. Still play with that person who you desire to be, but keep it live, but also keep it real. You're just not him just yet, but that doesn't mean over time you can't become it.
Yep. Man, it's crazy. It's like almost an hour just went by just like that.
It's easy.
Yeah, man, it's just I'm learning a lot, and it's like there is a lot of things that I already understand conceptually, right? Work hard, stay consistent, try new things. Transformation is painful because growth is painful, but there's just too big of a distance between the conceptual understanding and the practical implementation of those concepts, and I feel like that's where most of us hit a wall, right? It's like you might be fully inspired to go out and run or to go out and lift, but then you get up there, you grab that dumbbell, you curl a couple of times, like
it hurts.
yeah.
10 more days of this, 30 more days of this.
Right. Exactly, it hurts. So my understanding that growth and transformation is painful, and actually experiencing the pain of growth, and then being able to go beyond that's a difficult part. So I guess the question, or I'm gonna ask you for a couple of tips. What are some tips that you would give to someone that is going through the transformation phase, and due to the nature of anything that is worth going through, any transformation route that is worth traveling through, it's gonna be painful. So how do you ensure that, hey, when the pain comes, I'm gonna stick through with it? Like, this is a pain, but it's worth going through it, because I know I have an end goal, and this pain is gonna be worth it. But that's just in the conception, like in practice. Like, what does that look like to go through
in
that?
Action, when you actually go through. So
okay.
So again, the reason why I talk about mindset, because I believe imagination is everything. And some people may think imagination is Disney. I'm not really talking about that. Imagination is the thoughts that you hear through, that you think, also your self-talk. So and self-talk is one of the highest forms of prayer, because you're doing it often. It's what you tell yourself, what you feed yourself. What I would say is that when it comes down to the pain part, accept pain, period. Before you even get started, just know, and like, you can only conceptualize it. You don't know how it's going to feel, but just accept it. Like, if you go there, and so just to keep on the conversation of fitness, right? And let's go to, like how you said, the dumbbells. So the person goes in and they lift the dumbbells, and they're gonna have pain after they're done. But if you walk away and just say, you know what, I hate this, I don't like how I feel, but I know that I'm working towards a better route. Like, that's self-talk though. But you do that over and over. You start figuring out the words and phrases that hype you up, and you repeat that to yourself. So this is what I call saturation. So as you're going through your transformation, you want to saturate your mind with all the positive and all the things that would get you through that workout. Even if it's just 10 minutes. If you need Les Brown, if you need Jim Rohn, if you need Tony Robinson in your ear while you're doing your 10-minute workout, when you lift these dumbbells, forget the reps, forget how many you did. Just do what you say you was going to do. If you said 3 reps 5 times, you do 3 reps 5 times. Forget how you look. Forget who's around you. Just tap into the idea that it's going to hurt. It's not going to be good for you. It's not going to feel good. It's not going to feel great. So you have to start finding a way to accept the fact that it's going to be painful, and accept pain, because now your pain tolerance is going to start to rise. If you have another day, if God continues to give you another day, if whoever you believe in gives you another day, that's a blessing. And I can't make a person accept that, but that's just the honest truth. So you have tomorrow, and you need to take tomorrow off from the gym, cool, but then you go back the next day. It's it's no easy way of really kind of saying it, Moses.
Yep.
But that's the saturation part is key, because when you get tired and when you get down, if you've done it enough to where like maybe it's always playing in the background, you'll realize that you'll start saying things to yourself that you may never have said before, because your subconscious is now involved.
Yeah.
Because maybe you woke up and you kept playing it. And something from Tony Robbins may have just come in a moment where you're just like, you know what, I want to give up. But something comes up, a quote or something that you see, because now it's in your awareness, just like law of attraction. It happens when it comes down to even what you think about. If you're saying that to yourself, that I'm going to make this happen, you might turn on the TV and you hear a quote. You might be riding by. Somebody may mention something and you be like, you know what? You're right. Quitting here. I won't do this no more. That's not who I am anymore. And that comes from saturating your mind. So that's a part of it. Second, I borrowed this from Think and Grow Rich. You want to revisit your goals as often as possible. So write them down. You know, you hear this a lot. People say write down your goals. It's really true. Write it down. But I was reminded of this technique that I was once told before that I'm now going back doing myself. Basically, put the goal as a title on the front on the page, right? And you fill up that page. You fill it up. You fill it up with what it would take, how it would feel. Even include the pain, include the obstacles that you think you're gonna have. Put it all in there, right? Fill up at least, if you do 2 pages, great. But go for 1 page. Just fill it up, and go back and edit it. You see what I'm saying? So you go back and edit. So your goal may be to gain 5 pounds, right? Now you know what's required. I'm gonna go to the gym every day, okay? But you have an obstacle. Maybe it's traffic, whatever. You write all those things in, and you go back. And you start editing. Okay, so maybe it may not be that extreme, but you know, it's this. Or you remove things. You start realizing where it's going to make sense, how it's going to make sense, and you revisit that twice a day if you can. You know, what's my guy's name? Of Think and Grow Rich. He says that you should revisit it twice a day. Once when you wake up, once before you go to bed. And it's always something about reading these things or positive messages before you go to sleep, because that's when your subconscious starts to get active. So if you can go to sleep to whatever you've edited, right? Saying that I'm going to be not just I'm going to be 5 pounds, but if I were 5 pounds heavier, what did I do to get there? You know, so that's a part of it. So that's 2, and then I would say 3 for a person. It's back to the surrendering part, and that's also part of imagination. Ask that question: what if I were the person that had said goal? What did I do?
Right.
And find everything in your will and your power and in your being to accept it. Accept it. That's just what you did. That's what you did, because you are that person now. You know, like if you want to be 5 pounds heavier, muscle, right? You said I'm going to be 5 pounds heavier. It's going to be all muscle, no fat, whatever it may be. Okay, you did the research. You started finding the words and the songs, the books, and everything that you need to help you get through your workout. So now it's like, okay, if I was that person, what did I do? And all those things tend to come. And acceptance is the last thing. And acceptance and surrender. Just surrender to it. I say just surrender to it, but it's not the easiest thing, because you're constantly fighting against your current situation, your current environment. But keep your eyes focused on the end goal. Know that you are that person today. It just doesn't look like it, but you are moving towards it, you know? So
yeah.
Those are the things.
No, that makes sense. It reminds me of a week and a half ago when I started the flight training. I show up and my flight instructor is like, I think, so I was supposed to be there like at 7:30, and I pull into the door at 7:33, and he's like, what's going on? You're a pilot. You're a pilot now, you know? You're supposed to be here at exactly the time. And he looks me up and down, he's like, where's your pen? I'm like, well, what pen? And he's like, well, you're a pilot now. You're supposed to have a pen with you at all times. Where's your notebook? I was like, hey, we didn't talk about all this. I just thought, you know, I just thought I'm showing up, you know? But yeah, the idea that was implanting in me is that we have the goal of being a pilot here is a thing. Here is like a list of things that comes with being a pilot.
Being a pilot.
Exactly. So we need to automate all these things so that we don't have to actively think about them and revisit them often. So that just reminds me of what you just said. Kind of cements that reality for me there.
Bro, you are a pilot now, right? So it's nothing wrong with you reading whatever book or article about the recent pilots. It's nothing wrong with you downloading the videos of pilots. You want to even know what happens in an extreme situation. Not saying that that's what's going to happen, but the more you saturate your mind with what pilots think about and do in pressured situations and in lighthearted situations, you become that pilot. And you yourself, you probably have an idea or vision of how you see yourself being, right? You may want to get into the cockpit and know every button. Well, you're going to study it how you're going to study it. But just like he said, this is what a pilot does. Now, you know, and I know that every pilot doesn't show up like that, but that may be the ideal pilot that he wants you to be. But you have to, okay, so this seems right? Showing up on time, that's just great habits to have. Showing up with a pen in any conversation or meeting, that's just good things to do. And you yourself may know it, conceptually, but it may be like, all right, I normally do this, but I didn't know that pilots need to do this. But now you know, all right, bet that's the type of pilot I want to be. So you're gonna show up like that. You are the pilot now. Every time you wake up, down to your diet, is the type of pilot you're gonna show up to be. So hey, he's right, and that's what I say. Like, if you were the pilot that you wanted to be, if you were the person that you wanted to be, what did you do? What were the steps that you took, and how would you interact in your daily thing? Like, being an overweight pilot probably is not the best way to go. I think I would want my pilot, like some just like how you want your doctors to be as healthy. That's a whole nother story. But I probably would want my pilot to be healthy, because I don't need you having a heart attack trying to fly me somewhere. So
man, Yazz-E, I really, really appreciate you coming in on the Moses Kabandana Podcast. It's crazy that just this hour just went flying by. So as we're coming to a close here, are there some final thoughts that they would like to leave the audience with?
Yes, man. First off, once again, thank you for having me. I always enjoy having these type of conversations.
Yes, sir.
This is what I enjoy the most, is having conversations with individuals like yourself, because I tend to learn as well, right? And I want you to know that I have learned in this conversation. So, and I only hope that your audience continue to grow. So, what I would want to leave people with is that I believe, and I would want others to believe, that there's nothing that you can't do without the proper work and input like that it takes. Where you are is not where you have to stay, and where you want to be is very achievable. So I push saturating your mind. I push abandoning your old thoughts, because those things are very, very possible. It's in your will. And if you are willing to open your ears a little bit more, your heart a little bit more, the things that you're reaching for are near you, closer than what you think. So I want to challenge your audience to switch their mindset, and worst case or best case scenario, your normal day is more optimistic than it is pessimistic.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because we are magnets. We tend to attract the things we are and who we're becoming. So if you start to realize that your circumstance is only getting worse, even though it may be hard to change your mindset because your environment, you can accept the pain, accept that it's going to be painful, but know that who you become on the other side is who you always wanted to be and who you always were. So man, I would say that if you're not there yet, go find someone who is there. Continue to listen to audio like this, like Moses, and follow individuals like this, and read the books. Read the books, listen to the audio, to the music, all those things that it's required. So you can do it. you are the person that you want to be, and continue to make those changes.
Man, I could not have said that any better. Accept the pain. I don't like hearing that, but I know how important that is. So thanks for dropping that in. If people want to follow you or listen to your podcast, where do they find it?
Yeah, so you can find my podcast Beyond Six Figures on all platforms. So that's Spotify, Apple, and all that. You can follow me at Yazz-E, Everybody Loves Yazz-E on Instagram, or just type in Aaron Cantrell. That's where I do Moments of Agreement, which is like some short form positive messaging that I like to share with people, And if you're on TikTok, it's Moments of Agreement as well. And you can find a lot of those short videos there. If you need some daily boost, a nice little morning prayer, I provide that for anyone who's listening. So that's where you can find me.
My man, Yazz-E, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by and having a conversation on the Moses Kabandana Podcast.
Thank you, Moses. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.